All right, we are live, ladies and germs. A little bit a late start. This review, I was hoping this review would have taken place yesterday, but they were a little late with tech inspection, so I decided to say screw it, I'll do it Monday. What a weird ass race Martinsville was. There was a lot of there was some good racing when the racing was on, but man, that caution flag just flew one too many times. Just crazy shit. But we're going to be getting into all that. Also, kind of a new backdrop, I guess you could say. Because obviously, and plus, you know something different? Yep, I finally got rid of all my hair. Well, not all, because it's obviously still there, but it's a lot shorter now. So if you look at the previous review versus this one, you'll see a marked difference, to say the least. But we got a lot to get into. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition of The Fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man, and welcome to tonight's live review here on The Fuel, where tonight we're going to be reviewing the Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 500 at the Martinsville Speedway. Of course, shortened to just Blue Emu 500 for the sake of the video. So it is Monday, April the 12th, 2021. This is our 78th edition of The Fuel. The title of tonight's episode, Stop and Go, Stop and Go, Stop and Go Again. Because that's basically what this race felt like. It felt like it was in a stop and go kind of thing, because, you know, on Saturday night, which was when this race was supposed to take place, we got about 40 laps in and had to have a red flag for rain. So that's always great, and it got postponed to Sunday, where for some reason they decided to have the Xfinity race on at noon and have the Cup guys go on at 4 p.m., which makes absolutely no fucking sense whatsoever. I mean, why can't you just have the Cup Series on first, get it done and over with? And if people want to stick around for the Xfinity race, then let them. The logistics of it just didn't make a lot of fucking sense to me, but that's just me. But then this race was just caution-filled to the brim. Like, oh my god, these are supposed to be some of the best stock car races in the world, and it looked like fucking amateur hour out there. So, some of the headlines that we're going to be talking about, and shit, I forgot to do something. Hold on one second. Yeah, I forgot to do something. In my haste to get this started, I forgot to get the points and race results and get that set up. So that's fun. But yeah, this race, this race was definitely a mixed bag for me, because it was like when the race was on, the race was actually pretty damn good. You know, the racing was pretty good. You had your usual beating and banging and, you know, all that good stuff. And, you know, that's fine. You know, I like that kind of shit. But there were points of this race where it's like, good lord, enough with the caution flags already. I mean, I think we had one point where they only got like 1 or 2 laps of green flag racing, and then there was a caution. I think there was like 4 consecutive cases of that happening, and it's just like, oh my god. And I even put out a tweet that said, okay, this is getting really silly, because, you know, these are supposed to be some of the best drivers in the world, and they're driving with their heads up their ass. You know, it's really kind of irritating, to say the least. Because it's like, I don't want to be sitting here watching, you know, a parade, which is basically what it was amounting to. I mean, I wanted to watch these guys fucking race. You know, that's what I put my time and money into, you know what I mean? I don't put 4 hours of my personal life into this shit just to watch them go around, you know, putt around at 50 miles an hour behind the pace car. That's not entertaining to me. And they had to do that 15 total times during this race. Of course, 2 of those were, you know, stage breaks. But yeah, this race was just, it was just such a mixed bag, man. Which is a shame, because, I mean, this race had loads of potential, and like I said, when it was on, I mean, the racing was good, but unfortunately, it wasn't just the racing that was going on. And we're going to be getting into all that here in due time. So I get this set up. So, how did I feel about this race as a whole? I mean, I'm honestly kind of down the middle with it. I mean, like I said, the racing was good, but the sheer number of caution flags kind of took me out of it in a lot of cases. Which, like I said, kind of sucks. But, you know, it is what it is. So, now that I'm finally actually set up here. What are some of the headlines? Well, Truex becomes the first repeat winner of 2021. Of course, when it's, you know, the name of the track is Martinsville, so after a bit of a break, because he didn't win the fall race last year, he's back in victory lane at Martinsville for the 3rd time in the last 4 races. So he's returned to that. Didn't lead a whole hell of a lot of laps. He didn't really lead any laps until the very end of the race. And early on, it didn't look like he had the car, but as the temperatures went down, I think the car kind of came to him in that sense, and he was able to pick up the win and basically snapped the streak of different winners at 7, which is still a pretty good streak. So the season of parity, I think, is still going to continue. I think we're going to see a lot more different winners, because you have guys like Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott. You know, some of these guys that are super talented that haven't won yet. 1 second, let me go back to point standings. Who hasn't won yet this year? Chase Elliott hasn't won yet. That'll probably change for too long. Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, although he's only won twice so far in his career, but I mean, he's definitely got the potential. Denny Hamlin has not won yet, so there's still some drivers that could still pick up their first wins of the season. And of course, we got Talladega coming up here real soon. Hold on, let's take a look at what's coming up for the Cup Series here in the next couple of weeks, because I know we got Richmond next week. So, schedule. So we had the Blue Emu 500 at Martinsville, and then we got the Toyota Owners 400 at Richmond on April the 18th, and then the Geico 500, which is, I guess, based on the boldness here, is considered one of the crown jewels. So we got Richmond and then Talladega coming up on April the 25th, so about 2 weeks away. And then this fucking wacky named race. I mean, I guess there was a naming competition for the Kansas race that's coming up after Talladega, and it's called the Bushy McBush Race 400. Just no. That's just fucking stupid. Darlington doesn't have a, I guess, a title sponsor yet, but it is going to be the new Throwback Weekend on May the 9th. Then we have the Lone Dover race on May the 16th. Thank fucking God. Dover's garbage. And then we have the second of our 7 road course races on May the 23rd. It's called the Echo Park Texas Grand Prix, which I don't think we've had a cup race that's ever had the term Grand Prix used before. I do like it though. And then of course and then after that is May the 30th, Memorial Day weekend, and of course with Monaco, Indianapolis, and the Coca-Cola 600. So that's basically coming up rest of April and into May. So we know Talladega is coming up, and that's a wild card race for the most part. So there's a lot of different tracks that a lot of these guys could win at. So I don't think it's going to stop at 7 different winners, to be honest, because we got a lot of guys that have not won yet. Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch. We know Austin Dillon can win here and there. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's pretty much a threat at the restrictor plate tracks, so he could win one. Kurt Busch, he's usually good for a win or two in a season. Alex Bowman. So that's basically potentially 8 more winners. And Matty D, if he can get his shit together, he could potentially maybe get that first career win as well. So that's basically 8 or 9 different drivers that could still potentially win this season. So there's that. But yeah, the streak has been snapped at 7. So as I said, it's still Martinsville after a bit of a break. So there's that. And of course, I already talked about that, where Martinsville has basically become Martinsville because Truex has won 3 of the last 4 there, which is funny because he's suddenly become the short track ace because his first 80 starts on short tracks didn't score a win, and then he finally got that 1 win at Richmond. God, was it 2019 that he finally did it? Yeah, it was actually 2019 that he finally got his first short track win. And then the floodgates just opened. He hasn't won at Bristol yet, but he did win at Richmond, and now he's won 3 of the last 4 at Martinsville. So he's starting to become a bit of a short track ace in that regard. I think he actually swept Richmond that year, if memory serves me correctly. But yeah, like I said before, this was a messy race. Extremely messy race. Especially when you consider a few of the previous Martinsville races have actually been quite clean, which is a bit of a surprise considering Martinsville's history. But I mean, that's basically what we've been kind of judging it by, is how clean the races have been, and they've actually been pretty clean for the most part. But then this race just came up, and it's just like, what the hell happened? Everybody just started shitting the bed, it seemed like. And we had a crap ton of caution flags, most of which came in the 3rd stage. Go figure. That always seems to be the case. But there's something else I really want to talk about, because I do have a 5th headline, but I'm going to save that for when we get to it. And I got a lot to say on that one. So let's go ahead and jump into this review proper. The 2021 Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 500 at Martinsville. So the start of the race, we're already delayed by rain, so that's great, by about an hour. But stages broke down like this. Stages 1 and 2 were 130 laps, with stage 3 being 240 laps. Joey Logano starts from the pole. Of course, he won the previous week at, the previous race at Bristol, since they had Easter off. Logano leads lap 1, but Hamlin immediately challenges Logano for the lead and takes it for a first pure lead change on lap number 4. And this was kind of the theme of the day for Denny Hamlin. He had great short run speed, but would fall off quite a bit on the long runs, and that would actually come back to bite him at the end of this race, which kind of sucks for him because he led a lot of this race. He led more than half the race, which, when you consider, how many laps Keselowski and Truex led a couple years ago. They both led 400 laps each in their wins, I think in 2019. Yeah. Not a whole. It's not exactly a whole lot compared to those two, but I mean, it's still a hell of a lot of laps. Byron gets by Logano for second. Truex and Elliott gets by Blaney for fourth and fifth, but Blaney gets back around Elliott, which was kind of another theme. Drivers would pass somebody, and then the guy they just passed would eventually get back around them, and they would swap positions back and forth. That was pretty cool to watch, actually. So at this point, second through sixth is within a second of each other, so pretty tight racing. Logano gets back by Byron for second. Truex gets by for third, and then Blaney by for fourth, so Byron dropping back a little bit. Anthony Alfredo was already a lap down at this point, as well as Quinn Houff. Then we get our first caution on lap 37, and this is where I'm going to kind of pause the review and take a big heaping shit on a particular driver. James Davison gets spun by Cody Ware, his own teammate. And this is where I am just going to take a big heaping shit all over Cody Ware, because he absolutely deserves it, as one of my little keys has decided to join the stream. What you want? What do you want? Huh? What? I swear, when you want attention, cat. Shithead. But anyways. What? What do you want? You seeing this cat right here? What? What? Don't be rubbing your face up against the microphone. Crazy? You crazy? Hmm? Meow. Meow. Oh, Lord. Damn it, I'm trying to set my camera back up, cat. Come on. Alright, come on. There we go. Alright, so. This leads to my fifth headline. Cody Ware needs to get the fuck out. Because this guy is nothing but a fucking weapon in that 51 car. This is not the first time he's basically blatantly taken out somebody. Remember at Phoenix when he basically ran over Anthony Alfredo early on because he was quote unquote in the way? Well, apparently Cody Ware has some kind of problem with James Davison, and he basically just flat ran him over on this first caution of the day. And here's the thing, I don't give a flying fuck if he has mental health issues anymore. I don't fucking care, okay? There's only so many times you can use that excuse and get away with it. But, as I've said before, mental health issues is no fucking excuse for shit-ass racing and shit-ass driving. No excuse. And this motherfucker decided to not only take out someone else who he basically didn't like, but it was his own fucking teammate on his father's fucking team. And it has gotten to the point where even his own father is getting sick and fucking tired of his bullshit. Okay? Because let me show you something. Let me get to it on Twitter. Because apparently someone was listening into the Rick Ware Racing radio, and let me turn on screen capture, display capture. There we go. So this was apparently overheard on the Rick Ware Racing radio. Cody Ware, anytime he's ahead of us, Davison, he's getting turned. I'm not fighting him no more. And they didn't know if it was a crew chief or spotter, and he's like, cut that out. And Rick, I've heard enough over the radio, Cody. So what does that tell you? It tells you that even his own father is sick and tired of his fucking shenanigans shits. Okay? And I'm honestly at the point where I don't give a fuck about Cody Ware anymore, okay? I've given him the benefit of the doubt before with his, mental health issues and all that other shit. No more. I'm done with Cody Ware. He needs to get the fuck out of the Cup Series. He is nothing but a fucking weapon. Okay? And honestly, at this point, NASCAR needs to start implementing some fucking, some standards on who can drive in the fucking Cup Series, because this fucking bullshit is getting really out of hand. Because you got drivers in this Cup Series right now that shouldn't even be driving a fucking Cup car to begin with. What do you think of Josh for Lucky? What do you mean? Sorry, somebody. I was in mid rant, and someone just said, "What do you think of Josh for Lucky?" on the chat. What do you mean? Let's ask F1 to see if we can make a NASCAR license. That would be preferable. Kind of like F1's master license. I mean, that would be preferable because, I mean, some of the drivers that are in the Cup Series right now should not be in the Cup Series. Guys like Quint Half. I mean, when he got that Cup ride, I mean, he hardly had any starts in late model cars in any of the lower tier series, let alone in the Cup Series. Anthony Alfredo, I mean, he's not exactly that fast. Cody Ware, I mean, it's pretty obvious that he can't drive a race car worth a fuck. But why are these guys in the Cup Series? Well, it's simple. The almighty dollar. They got the sponsorship to back them up. I don't know how the fuck they're getting the sponsorship to back them up, because it's obvious they can't drive worth the fuck. But money talks and bullshit walks. That's basically how it's always been in motorsports. You got the dollars, you got the ride. And in motorsports, he is one of Cody's teammates, even the teammate did better than him in the Cup Series. He is one of Cody's teammates, even the teammate did better than him in the Cup Series. Oh, you mean Josh Bilicki? That's who you're referring to. Okay. I mean, Bilicki, I mean, I don't know if I'd call him any better, but I mean, he's certainly been doing better than Cody, I'll tell you that much. I mean, at least Josh Bilicki isn't actively trying to wreck other drivers. And now we've seen him kind of do it twice in, the last month? I mean, he did it at Phoenix with Anthony Alfredo, and then he did it to his own fucking teammate here at Martinsville. Cody Ware needs to get the fuck out of the Cup Series. It's proven, I mean, we've seen it on multiple occasions already this year, that he's nothing but a weapon. And that's just the bottom line. There needs to be some standards set in NASCAR, whether it's, a system similar to what the FIA has with the master license, or something else of that nature. Something needs to be done. Because having these slow-ass motherfuckers and these weapons in the Cup Series is just doing nothing but affecting the quality of the racing. And that's just my opinion on it. And I mean, you can only use the mental health excuse for so long before people start to see through the bullshit. So I'm honestly at the point where I'm thinking he's just trying to use that to try to avoid criticism. That's not going to work with me, because I don't judge you based on what you do, off the racetrack or whatever. If you have personal issues off the track, that's your business. Alright, I think I'm back on the air now. My fucking OBS kind of shit itself. I don't know when it fucking cut me off though. That's annoying as shit. Oh, hey dog cat. Or cat dog. I don't know how we get it all fucking mixed up. I don't know when it fucking cut me off. Man, that sucks. Cause I was in the middle of a spiel there and it fucking OBS decides to take a shit. But like I was saying, shit needs to fucking change here. And Cody Ware needs to get the fuck out of the Cup Series because, you know, this is a pattern of behavior from him where he's just wrecked, you know, drivers just because he didn't like them or they were in his way or whatever the fuck else, you know. And like I said before, there's only so many times you can use the mental health excuse before people will see through the bullshit, you know. And what we saw Saturday night was fucking bullshit. And I think it's gotten to the point where even his own father has gotten sick and tired of his shit. So do not be the least bit surprised if we do not see Cody Ware for the rest of this year driving that 51 car. I would not be the least bit surprised if he's taken out of that car for the rest of the year. Or if he's still in the car, he'll be on a very tight leash. But yeah, NASCAR needs to start putting some frickin' standards in place because some of these drivers just don't belong in the Cup Series. And that's just my personal opinion on that. But that's what I wanted to get off my chest. Cody Ware can fuck off. He needs to get the fuck out of the Cup Series. He's nothing but a weapon. That's my opinion on that. Moving on. Let's get back to reviewing the rest of this race because we still got a lot to get to. Everyone comes in for service. Hamlin wins the race off pit road. And it was at this point that the rains really started to come in. NASCAR really tried their damnedest to keep the track up, but then it really started coming down around 10-ish, between 10 and 10:30, and that's when NASCAR decided to postpone the race to Sunday. Then the Xfinity race went on, and actually Josh Berry actually ended up winning the Xfinity race, which I was like, damn, that's pretty cool, because he drives for Dale Jr.'s late model team, and he's been really successful in that car. Then he gets a shot in Jr.'s... Yeah, now you're affecting sponsors. Yeah. I mean, that's what a lot of people are saying. They're saying that Ware Racing might be falling apart at the seams. But all we can do is just wait and see what happens. But getting back to Josh Berry for a second, you know, he's been driving for Dale Jr.'s late model team for a while. Jr. gives him a shot in his Xfinity car at Martinsville, and he gets the win. I mean, that's definitely one of the feel-good stories of the year. So hopefully Josh Berry gets future shots. Potentially in that 8 car, maybe even get a full-time ride in Xfinity at some point, driving one of Junior's other cars, because that 8 car has always been kind of like the what would you call it? Like the tryout car, I guess you could say, because there's always been a lot of drivers driving it during the season. But they finally get back under green. Hamlin leads on the restart. Then we immediately get our second caution on lap 51. When Kurt Busch spins in turn 4 after contact with Eric Jones, although it looked like Jones kind of slid up the track. Hamlin leads on the restart. Truex gets by Elliott for third. And it was at this point I noticed that Stewart Haas's cars were just struggling right now. Even Harvick, I mean, I think he fell out of the top 10 at this point. And all the other cars were basically back in the 20s. It's not looking good for Stewart Haas right now. I mean, Harvick is basically the only thing that's holding that team together, and even he's been having some struggles as of late. Although I did think he recovered for a top 10 finish in this race. Blaney challenges Hamlin for the lead on lap 72, and then finally gets it for a second pure lead change on lap 75. Truex actually starts closing in on the front two. Larson and Kez start swapping the seventh position back and forth between them. That was pretty cool to watch. Larson would get underneath him and pass him, and then Kez would pass him back, and then Larson would pass him back again. That's what I was talking about earlier with swapping back and forth. That's actually pretty cool to see battles like that. So we had a pretty interesting battle for 20th between 5 cars, including Kurt Busch and Bubba Wallace. That was pretty interesting for a while. Larson gets by Logano for 5th, and I noticed that all of the big teams that we have right now, Gibbs, Penske, and Hendrick, occupy the top 11 spots. Like I said, Stewart Haas, a bit of a struggle right now. Of course, they don't have a whole lot of their veterans anymore. I mean, when you look at, other than Harvick, they have Cole Custer, who did get that win at Kentucky, although that was a bit of a fluke deal. He's been struggling. Of course, they got Chase Briscoe, but this is his first year in the Cup Series. And then they have Eric Almirola, who, I mean, he's been there for a few years, but he's just not looking good right now. Although he did put in a spirited effort in this race, he just had some terrible luck. But Ryan Blaney does end up winning stage 1. Blaney definitely had one of the strongest cars in this race. Him and Denny Hamlin both. But as would be the case, Blaney would not end up winning. Everyone comes in for service, and Blaney wins the race off pit road this time. Now, Blaney had the kind of the opposite to what Hamlin had with his car, where Hamlin was taking off on the starts, but would fade later on. Blaney, actually, his car did not get going until a few laps afterwards, but then he had the long run speed. So that's why we kind of had this interesting dynamic of, you know, short run car versus long run car. But stage 2 will begin with Blaney leading on the restart. Hamlin actually gets a great run around the outside and takes the lead on the restart. Like I said, Hamlin had a good short run car. Kyle Busch was up to 4th after his teammate put in the 2nd fastest 4-tire stop of the year. So even though Kyle Busch has also been kind of struggling as of late, his pit crew still is turning out some fast times. Harvick door slams Bubba after the 23 tried to nudge him out of the way. That was kind of funny. Bowman and Larson get by Kyle Busch for 4th and 5th. Ryan Prix with alternator issues after running inside the top 15, which was a tough break because he also ran the modified race earlier in the week, and that extra bit of seat time seemed to help him because the 37 was actually running pretty good. Prix has definitely been overachieving in that 37 car this year. Blaney catches back up with Hamlin and passes him for the race lead for a third period lead change on lap 175. Blaney gets up to a 2-second lead on lap 200. And it was at this point that the stage was just basically starting to become, it basically started to kind of settle down a little bit, and that's when the stage got really boring at this point. Bowman gets by Truex for 3rd, then we have our 3rd caution on lap 240. Cody Ware spins after losing a right rear tire. In that case, you know, that's not his fault, that's just mechanical failure, in this case, a tire. Everyone comes in for service. Blaney wins the race off pit road. Blaney leads on a restart. Hamlin challenges Blaney for the lead, but then we get our 4th caution on lap 252 when Ryan Newman gets loose in turn 1 and collects Matt DiBenedetto. Both had significant front end damage, although that didn't really seem to affect Newman all that much, because he would still end up being competitive despite all the front end damage. Blaney leads on the restart with 2 laps to go in stage 2, and he would end up holding off Denny Hamlin in a pretty exciting little finish there to stage 2 by half a car length to get the stage win and the playoff point that comes with it. But this is when things started to get a little crazy, and this is when some strategy kind of came into play, because it was around this point that Joey Logano had been dropping back through the field like a rock and was actually back around 20th position, but then, you know, you have all these cautions suddenly fall his way, and he basically played the track position game that got him back up towards the front. But start of stage number 3, Hamlin leads, of course. But it's a 3 wide and contact between Buescher, Larson, and Suarez. That was pretty crazy. Then we got our 5th caution on lap 277 when Justin Haley spins in turn 4 after a left rear tire goes down, so another tire failure there. Hamlin leads on the restart. Bell gets by Kurt Busch for 5th. Christopher Bell was actually looking pretty good at this point in the race. Logano by Keselowski for 2nd. Then we get our 6th caution on lap 290 when Cody Ware spins on his own in turn 1. And even Mike Joy was starting to get a little bit exacerbated with Cody Ware, because he was like, oh, it's Cody Ware. Oh, you could tell even he was getting annoyed with Ware at this point. This one was Ware just, you know, not driving the car. Get Cody Ware off the fucking racetrack. That's all I gotta say. Everyone comes in for service. Hamlin wins the race off pit road. 6 cars actually ended up staying out, and Austin Dillon is penalized a lap for pinning out of the box. So what happened was he was going to leave, but one of the pit crew guys forgot that the wrench was in the back of the car. Tried to get it out, and it was considered pinning out of the pit box, so he lost a lap in the process. He actually had a fast car early in the race too. So Bubba Wallace was one of the cars that stayed out and leads on the restart. And he was 2 laps down at one point, but was actually able to make both of them up. One on a wave around and the other on the lucky dog. So at this point, the faster cars are back in the soup in the heavy traffic. So it was interesting to see how this strategy would play out. Stenhouse had a left rear tire rub after some contact. Byron gets by Buescher for third. Hamlin gets by Suarez for fifth, who was one of the cars that stayed out. Truex starts falling back a bit on this run, so it was at this point that Truex was not looking really looking like a race-winning car at this point. Byron gets by Newman for second, top four within half second of each other, but William Byron manages to get around Wallace for the race lead. Our fourth pure lead change on lap 315. Blaney starts reporting higher temperatures, basically higher water temperatures and oil temperatures. But of course, he hadn't been back in the pack all race long. He'd been up towards the front of the field. Hamlin gets by Newman for third, and then by Bubba Wallace for second. Eric Almirola has to make an unscheduled pit stop for a tire rub, and then he gets immediately burned by the seventh caution of the day on lap 322 when Kyle Busch spins in turn one after reporting that something may have broke. And it was at this point that this race fell apart in a big way, because this is when the cautions really started flying. Everyone comes in for service. Hamlin wins the race off pit road, so he leads on the restart. And then we immediately get our eighth caution on lap 331 when Anthony Alfredo pushes up into Eric Almirola on turn 1 and spins off of the 10 car. Next restart, Hamlin leads. Bowman gets by Byron for second. Then we get our ninth caution on lap 340 when Keselowski gets spun by Suarez, who ended up pushing up in turn 1. I don't know if Suarez hit the curb or what the deal was, but that was the next caution. So Hamlin leads on that restart, but then we get our 10th caution on lap 348. When Ryan Newman spins in turn 2 by Bubba Wallace after everyone stacks up after Blaney and Logano make contact battling for position. Almirola piled into the back of Daniel Suarez and basically destroyed the front end of his car, and that was the end of Almirola's day. So Hamlin leads on the restart. Logano is up to third at this point, but it's really loosey-goosey. His car was really loose. Blaney gets by Byron for fourth as Byron begins to backslide a little bit. Logano gets by Bowman for second. As Bowman reports a bad vibration, which would actually turn out to be a right front loose wheel that he would actually have to pit for, and would immediately get burned for it. Elliott gets by Truex for fourth, and then immediately after Bowman pits to get the tires changed, and it turned out it was our loose right front wheel, we get our 11th caution on lap 372 when Eric Jones spins in turn 1 after Kes punts him, thanks to Ross Chastain being on Keselowski's ass and him pushing Keselowski right into Eric Jones. Excuse me. And Keselowski was none too pleased with Mr. Ross Chastain and let him know about it, because it made a little gesture to him out the window. Everyone comes in for service. Hamlin wins the race off pit road. And Corey LaJoie's front end gets ripped off by Tyler Reddick's car as Reddick was trying to avoid it. Was actually trying to avoid him, but he had a car on his outside. And Corey LaJoie pulled away, and it just ripped the right front off the car, and I think it might have punctured the radiator as well, because they actually retired from the race after that, which is kind of a shame, because he actually had a top 10 run going. So Christopher Bell stays out and leads on the restart. Chastain was actually stayed out as well and restarted second, but he pushed way up in turn 3, and that allowed Hamlin to come through for second. Blaney and Logano split Suarez for third, which was pretty crazy. Logano nearly booted Blaney out of the way for that runner-up spot. We got our 5th pure lead change on lap 383 when Hamlin manages to get around his teammate Christopher Bell. Suarez gets bumped by Byron in turn 1, which would result in a hilarious little thing later on. Harvick finally cracks the top 10 on lap 386. And then we have our 12th caution on lap 387, and holy shit. The backstretch becomes completely blocked as Kyle Busch and Chris Buescher kind of spin off each other. Looked like Kyle kind of bumped them out of the way in turn 1, and then off of turn 2 it looked like Buescher got loose in the higher lane and came down into Kyle, and it caused both of them to spin out, and it caused a massive stack up. 15 cars got damaged in some sort in this incident. Suarez, which would knock him out of the race, and I don't know if you've seen the thumbnail for this video, but yeah, basically it has him standing on the pit wall looking at his car that is now on fire. And he actually ended up tossing some water bottles at Byron because he was not happy with the way Byron basically knocked him out of the way. So Suarez, Alex Bowman, this actually ended Bowman's day with a busted radiator. Man, shows you how that loose right front wheel really screwed his day up. Anthony Alfredo, Ryan Prix, Brad Keselowski, which ended his day as well, Matt DiBenedetto, Kurt Busch, Justin Haley, Chase Briscoe, Cole Custer, Eric Jones, all involved in some way, shape, or form. And I think they also said that Michael McDowell was also involved a little bit as well. So we had to have a red flag to clean up the mess, and at this point I was like, yep, it's official. This race is a fucking joke. Well, I shouldn't say the whole race is a fucking joke. The third stage definitely was, though. So, but thankfully I think this red flag was kind of a blessing in disguise because, you know, after all the cautions that we had in this third stage, I think the red flag kind of allowed everybody to kind of cool off a little bit, cool their jets a little bit. Because after that, we only had one more caution flag, so in the last 100 laps, and a lot of good racing. So I think this red flag actually ended up saving the end of this race. So Hamlin leads on the restart. Logano nearly spins Truex off of turn 4, kind of similar to what happened a couple years ago when Logano basically knocked Truex out of the way for the win. I think he realized that that was not a good idea because Truex was able to hang on. And Logano basically let him back by. It's like, yeah, I didn't really mean to do that. Elliott gets by Larson for 5th. Then around the outside of Logano for 4th, which was an impressive move. Larson actually ends up making the same outside pass on Logano for 5th. So Logano at this point was starting to backslide. Truex actually starts catching both Blaney and Hamlin for the top 2 spots. Christopher Bell gets by Larson for 5th, but then Larson gets back around him a few laps later. Blaney, of course, those two have always had a dirt rivalry. Blaney beginning to put pressure on Hamlin for the race lead once again, which has basically been the theme of this race. Elliott, Larson, and Bell start fighting for the 4th position, so lots of good battles in the top 10 at this point. Top 3 are within a second of each other. At this point, it was Hamlin leading, Blaney 2nd, Truex 3rd. Then we get our 13th and thankfully final caution of the day on lap 452, when Chase Briscoe spins in turn 3 after losing the right rear tire. It seemed like that when the cars got into a bit of a long run, like around a 50 lap run, we've had cautions where drivers would spin out after losing tires. I'm honestly wondering, because, you know, when you use a lot of brakes at Martinsville, and I think the brakes are getting so hot that it's melting the bead on the tires and causing them to blow out. Because we saw a lot of this going on, you know, where these guys would get into like a 50 lap run, then all of a sudden we have a caution where someone lost a tire and spun around. So I'm wondering if the brakes were getting so hot that they were melting the bead on the tires. So everybody comes in for service, and this time Truex wins the race off pit road. And Blaney, oh Blaney, would screw his day up and take away his shot at victory when he was penalized for running over the air hose and taking the air gun out of the pit box. So basically it was a double whammy. He was getting a penalty either way. He was going to get penalized for running over the air hose, which is not allowed, and he also took equipment out of the pit box, which is also a penalty. So he had to restart at the tail end of the longest line, and that was his shot to win, done and dusted. So Truex leads on the restart. But as per the usual, Hamlin powers around the outside to retake the lead on the restart with 40 laps to go. But the question was, would Hamlin be able to hold his teammate Truex at bay, considering that this was still going to be a bit of a, you know, a bit of a run to the finish, because this was about a 40 lap run to the finish. Elliott gets by Larson for 3rd, and Logano tries to follow through, and Bell actually followed through as well. And Truex starts challenging Hamlin for the lead with 25 laps to go, and this was actually a good battle. I mean, there was a couple cases where Truex could have knocked Hamlin out of the way, but he wanted to be patient and try to make the pass for the lead as clean as possible. There was contact between Newman, Wallace, and Austin Dillon while they were battling for position, but everybody keeps it straight. Truex and Hamlin were side by side for the race lead at multiple points in the last 25 laps, but then finally Truex was able to get around Hamlin for the race lead on lap 486 for 6th and final pure lead change of the day, and that is the last anyone would see of the lead. So Truex didn't get the lead until late in the race, but that's the point of the race where it counts the most. Elliott was right behind the JGR cars and challenges Hamlin for 2nd and takes it, but took a little too long to get around Mr. Denny Hamlin. And Truex was able to drive away and win the Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 500 at Martinsville snapping the different winner streak at 7 and also scoring his 29th career victory. It's crazy to think that before the 2015 season, just 6 short years ago, he had just 2 career wins in his entire career. And his full-time career, I think, started in 2006. By the time 2015 came around, he only had 2 wins, and now 6 years later, he's about to crack the 30 barrier. Unreal. But Truex becomes the first 2-time winner this season, after having just 1 win last year, which was at Martinsville. He had a lot of great runs last year, but could not find victory lane. But now he's back in victory lane for the 2nd time this season, and the 29th of his career. So, take a look at some stats from the race. Overall lead changes. We had 18 overall lead changes in this race, which was actually a hell of a lot more than Bristol, the previous race, which is pretty crazy to think about. We had 6 pure lead changes overall, but we also had 13 caution flags, which I think is the most of this season. So, other than perhaps Daytona, this was without a doubt the messiest race of the year. So, this was a massive mixed bag, to say the least. So, top 10 race results for the Blue Emu 500 sees Martin Truex Jr. taking his 2nd win of the season, only led 20 total laps on the day. Chase Elliott comes home in 2nd, did not lead a single lap. Denny Hamlin 3rd, led 276 of the 500 laps, but comes up short. William Byron comes home in 4th after leading 9 laps on the day. Kyle Larson with a top 5. This is statistically Kyle Larson's worst track, but he comes home with a top 5 finish. Joey Logano, kind of back and forth in the running order all day, comes home 6th. Christopher Bell in 7th. Tyler Reddick with a top 10 run. Kevin Harvick, despite all of his troubles, still comes home with a top 10 finish in 9th. And Kyle Busch, despite being involved in 2 cautions, salvages a top 10 finish, which is quite the surprise. Point standings after 8 of 36 races so far in 2021. Denny Hamlin continues to lead the way in the point standings despite not having a win, but he has 7 top 5s in 8 starts. And a lot of people are saying, is him not getting any playoff points going to affect him later on down the line? Well, if he ends up winning the regular season title, which right now is looking really good, he has a 76-point lead. That's 15 bonus points that he's going to get for the playoff, which is a lot of freaking bonus points. Of course, it would probably help if he got some race wins as well to kind of bolster that. He does have 3 stage wins though, so that's 3 playoff points. But yeah, I think some wins are going to be right around the corner. I mean, he's been knocking on the door pretty much every race this season. I mean, wins are going to be around the corner for Denny Hamlin. It's not like a case with Harvick where he's just suddenly kind of fallen off from the front of the field, even though Harvick has 6 top 10 finishes. It's just, Harvick's just not been race winning. Harvick has not had race winning speed. Denny Hamlin has had race winning speed. But I think some wins are going to be around the corner for Denny Hamlin for sure. But Truex, with his 2nd win of the year, moves up to 2nd in the points, 76 points back. Logano is 3rd. Kyle Larson in 4th. Ryan Blaney in 5th. And the rest of the top 10, William Byron, Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, and Christopher Bell running at the top 10. The rest of the playoff field right now include Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chris Buescher, Kurt Busch, and Michael McDowell. His performances have kind of fallen off a little bit as of late, which is not really that big of a surprise, but of course he still has that win at Daytona to fall back on. And then the rest of the top 20 is Alex Bowman, Ryan Newman, Bubba Wallace, and Ryan Prix. And that is the point standings, 8 races out of 36. So we're about a quarter of the way through the season. As for my final rating for the Blue Emu 500, like I said, this was a very mixed bag for me as far as the race is concerned, because this was extremely messy. An extremely messy race. Rain was a problem, of course, on Saturday night. You had that big one late in Stage 3. Stage 3 was a fucking mess. Let's just be completely honest here. I mean, the last 100 laps were fantastic, but it hardly makes up for how messy that 3rd stage was. It was bad. It really was. I mean, people are giving this race a lot more credit than it deserves, to be honest. I mean, they're not looking at the whole picture. I mean, when you look at that third stage, it was a mess. Like, how many cautions were in that third stage? Let's see. In stage 3, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 caution flags and a red flag. Not exactly what I would call a great stage to finish the race on. But like I said, when the racing was on, it was actually good. It just sucks that we had so many caution flags for some silly ass shit. Of course, some were just, you know, tire failures, which, I mean, there's not really much you can do about it, whether through contact or, you know, something else. I mean, there's not much you can do about that. But some of these other cautions were just not necessary, and it was just silly bullshit. So that in itself really brought it down. So it kind of got split down the middle for me. It was definitely a mixed bag. So my final rating for the Blue Emu 500, I am going to give it a 5 on the fuel gauge. So 5 out of 10 overall. So it wasn't good, but it wasn't terrible either. Like I said, it was a mixed bag. We had way too many caution flags, but when the racing was on, the racing was actually good. So there's that. But we got one more short track that we're going to, which is Richmond, and then we got Talladega. Of course, last year, the spring race at Talladega ended up being, you know, probably probably the race of the year, to be honest. I mean, I did give it a perfect 10 out of 10 and called it the gold standard. So hopefully we'll see something like that this time around. It would be nice after what happened at Talladega the last time. But before that, we got Richmond, which is actually going to be a Sunday race for the spring edition this year. So that'll be interesting. Richmond in the daytime. That'll be interesting. So that's going to do it for tonight's edition of the Fuel, a Monday edition, because the race went so long on Sunday night. But you know, it's just the way it goes sometimes. But we got her in, so there you go. A bit of a longer review this time around, but we had a lot to talk about. A lot more to talk about than in previous weeks. But that's going to do it for tonight's edition of The Fuel. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, this is the Packerman signing out. See you later.
Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you rats!